Man, I was already feeling so awful yesterday. I only played one lineup, and of course, I went with Seattle. And then you tweeted it, and now you're wearing the shirt. Like I can't get away from it.
Good times. Good times.
I went to celebrate Ranger Day, and that didn't work out for the Phils. Such is life.
Yeah, he's.
All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday morning here with one Matthew Belman as we get ready for a little baseball, a little Sunday fun day, MLB action. Matt, the soothsayer, you said play the Nationals. I didn't play the Nationals. Did you play the Nationals?
I didn't play the Nationals. I only played one lineup yesterday because we were doing a show. And man, it was between Washington and Seattle. Soon as the Washington game starts, Keibert Ruiz, hits a 3-run homer, and Julio Rodriguez gets pinch hit for in the bottom of the second. Ty France was already out in the bottom of the first because I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think he had hurt his knee the night before. So at that point, it was just GG's for me. And the other part of it was if I was going to play the Nationals, I was able to spend up for better pitching. With Seattle, I had to play Cade Povich, who was a slate ruiner. So it went from potentially being a great day to like finishing in last place. So trying to get it back today. It's the nature of DFS. That shit happens.
Yeah, it will definitely happen. It was those are always rough when they are. We had Oakland ended up leading the way with like 19 runs or something nutty like that.
That was my only saving grace, was that I don't think I would have like taken down everything because of Oakland. I wouldn't have had any Oakland. So it was kind of good to see that, even though I didn't have any Oakland,
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. They were everybody was hitting home runs and extra base hits. And that's something that we talk about, or I talk about in the free Spotlight Pitchers Top Stacks article quite often, is just saying, hey, especially because they're on the late slate so often. And I always write up something for the late slate. And it's like Oakland, pick on them, but just know they're 7th in the league in home runs. But I think now they're 3rd, or they might even crawled up to 4th in runs scored. They don't get anybody on base. They have the 2nd most strikeouts to Seattle. They just have people with power. So I guess, it makes sense that when they're hitting home runs, when people are actually on, they can pop off for that. Did you know that those 19 runs, not even their highest number of the season, they scored 20 months ago? Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. And that other day slate on Saturday where the game started late, I think it was against Miami. So I think that's boosting up. I think that's really boosting up the A's offensive numbers, is these 2 games. Well, this game just happened, but anytime you have 40 runs in 2 games, I mean, that's like 3 weeks for some teams. Yeah. Seattle.
Yeah, it's definitely standing out. I put after each of those games, I'm like, and there was 6% of their total runs in this last one. There was 5% of their total runs on this season. It's just a ridiculous number there. So, but let's look at today. We have a good one. Essentially, no Coors Field on any of the slates. FanDuel elected to not include it. DraftKings rarely does. And then Yahoo starting their featured contests with the 4:00 games. You can catch that the Coors Field and single game action on DraftKings, but then it's also on the all-day slates if you want to jump in on that. Otherwise, we're going to miss that one. But that's why there's sports wagering. We can always take a peek over there at OddsShopper and see what's going on with regards to that game. It's a lot of fun. Colorado has won each of the last 2 as 140 last night and 156 underdogs. So not too shabby, not a lot of runs, perhaps now that nobody can pour all of their heart and soul and salary cap into that game. Now we'll see 20 combined runs from those teams. But let's focus on today's action here, Matt. We, of course, will start off with pitchers. Clearly at the top is going to be Tarik Skubal. He is 4 times this season, he's allowed 4 runs. That's it. In his other 13 starts, he has allowed 3 or less. That's pretty crazy. He is down to a 2.45 ERA this season. That's down from a 2.80 from last year. Remember, he only started 16 games last year. He has a sub-1 whip for the 2nd consecutive season, and he is striking out more than 10 per 9 innings. And bring all that up today because he is going to be our pitcher of the day. Of course, he is in Cincinnati taking on the Reds. That is the only knock against him. He also is vying for a top 3 top odds in the American League Cy Young Award race. And I'm going to speak this one into existence. And while we doubted a little bit there with Ranger Suarez with similar bona fides yesterday, I'm feeling a little bit better about Scooble today. How do you feel about Tariq here? And then what do you have after the Detroit hurler?
Yeah, so I think Scooble is pretty clearly the top pitcher on the slate. He's one of a handful of pitchers who are, kind of the front runners for best pitcher in baseball right now, especially with no Spencer Strider. It's a good matchup against the Reds. Obviously a bad ballpark for pitching, but we don't have a lot of really good pitching options today. So I think Scooble really stands out. Pretty easy to get to depending on what you want to do offensively. So yeah, I like Scooble quite a bit here. I wish that there were other good arms so he wasn't getting so much ownership, but such is life, and he looks like the best option by a pretty clear amount to me.
Yeah, that's that one. Like, so I'm looking at our top stacks tool, and I don't want to besmirch the good work that everybody does here on the projections and behind the scenes, but it feels to me like we might be a little bit aggressive there on Edward Cabrera.
Yeah, same.
He's coming in as the top option. I want to call that one out right now, or just identify what makes me nervous. Yes, one of the best matchups in the game going against the Chicago White Sox. Cabrera has been out for about 2 months. I believe it was a shoulder impingement. He made 3 starts in the minor leagues, and they were giving him plenty of time. They weren't rushing him between those starts. He went from like low 30s pitches to mid 40s to I think like 47. I don't have his information up in front of me, but he ended up with about 43 or 47 pitches in that 3rd start. He's a veteran. He could ramp back up to 75 or so today, but I wouldn't expect to see much more than that from him. Yet another lost season here for Miami, and he was already struggling enough when he was healthy. To me, that just feels a bit aggressive there. The $7,700 price tag in the matchup, yeah, we can understand that. I'd be surprised if he closes the 5th inning, but he could clear out 4 innings with 6 strikeouts, and he'd still be reasonable for his number as long as he doesn't, or his salary, as long as he doesn't give up too many runs. But I'm looking, a couple other industry sites have him for around 85 pitches. So maybe I'm the one that's a little tentative on this one, but it just feels like having him to be the best percentage to be a top 2 pitcher from a raw points perspective. If we were going to say a point per dollar perspective, I wouldn't fight that, but from a raw points perspective, just feels a bit much there. Matt, what does your gut tell you for a number of pitches?
I'm kind of right with you, actually. I think that our tools are very aggressive on him right now. Now, it is a slate without a ton of good pitching options, and he's in the best matchup and the best ballpark or one of the best ballparks for pitching. And so I get it at that price point, but I'm with you. Like, I think he threw 60 some pitches in his last rehab outing.
Yeah, that's what someone was saying. I may have I may have misremembered, like 30 something, 43, and then 67 instead of 47. But still, going from 67 to 85, that's still a pretty hefty number. Missing 2 months. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good. I mean, yeah, I think that's a big number. This is a guy they kind of treat with kids' gloves anyways. So listen, I think he's, for me, my 3rd favorite pitcher on the slate, behind Scooble and Evaldi. But I like Scooble and Evaldi considerably more just because of the safety of the fact that they're going to be able to pitch as long as they really can here, where Cabrera, that's not the case in my mind, at least.
Yeah, and before and this is not a case of as the kids say, IKB, I know better. No, I'm making having plenty of success utilizing our tools, just counting on them for a lot of things. This is me having played, fantasy baseball for 35 years, just kind of saying, maybe not the number 1. It wouldn't shock me if he's my 4th or 5th most popular player amongst my player pool, playing 2 on DraftKings at his salary. It just, to me, feels that the top one, or that first one, is problematic. Okay, I've got his page up. I think maybe I was looking at his game. Oh, I was looking at his STR this morning because I was tired. That is strikes in the zone. That was 30, 37, and 46. So those are the numbers I remembered. His pitches were 49, 60, and 67. All right, I see how we're projecting that and the rest of the industry getting to 85. To me, that still feels a bit much. In the games where he was playing in the majors, he threw 91, 96, 78, 91, and then 58 when he got hurt. Remember, he started the year in the minors, 43, 66, and 82. I still feel it's pretty aggressive. But again, this is point per dollar play against one of the weakest offenses in the league. So understand it totally. Just what it exactly is the upside. Is it a 25 plus DraftKings points performance today? I don't believe so. I'd be happy with 15. So just for perspective there. All right, that was a little bit of a derailment, but it's Nathan Evaldi day. Talk to us a little about Nate the Great in his age 34 season. Decent matchup going against Tampa Bay. They are dramatically different on offense than they were last year. Last year, they were third or fourth in OPS. They're seventh from the bottom this year. Isaac Paredes is doing all right. Yandy Diaz is back to being a mere mortal. Actually, less than that. He's having his worst OPS of his career after being a top 20 player in that category last year. I say OPS because that's on base plus slugging. That's just the kind of one of the metrics teams like Tampa Bay look at, Oakland look at. It's like, all right, we want people that get on base. We don't care how they get on base, right? It's the old money ball, he gets on base, right? So they're on base and they can get extra base hits, on base plus slugging percentage. But this is one of the shakier Tampa Bay teams that we've seen in a long time. So I'm totally on board with Evaldi here. Any highlights you'd like to call out for Evaldi, and who are you moving on after we've spent 15 minutes on the top three pitchers already?
I think it's more, I like Evaldi in general, but it's more just about the lack of other options. Tampa, they're obviously not as good as they have been the past couple of years. Still not a bad lineup, but they strike out a lot. So that helps Evaldi here. He's got a full workload. If I needed the salary, I'd have no problem going down from Evaldi to Cabrera, especially because we're projecting Cabrera for more fantasy points. Again, I think that's aggressive, but it does stand out to me a little bit. We've been project Cabrera with more fantasy points than Scooble too. So that's just something to monitor. I'm a little bit caught off guard with that, not going to lie. For me, Evaldi just looks solid here. I don't think he's the best pitching option, but slate considered, I think he's the clear number 2. And I like cheap offenses, one cheap offense in particular, where it's really not hard to fit both of them.
All right. That they are going to be my pairing. It looks like for cash games. It also looks like I am just essentially getting 3-man stacks on both sides of that Chicago and Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim game there in the Windy City, because I know some of you like to know what's up when it comes to our cash games, but that's where my build is essentially going there. The only nervousness, that's the appropriate verb tense to use, I have towards Scooble is just Spencer Steer, a little bit of Heimer Candelario, a little bit of Ellie De La Cruz, just because those guys are, they're the core, they're the heart of the lineup, but things fall off pretty dramatically after that. You got, is that their actual lineup? Will Benson's actually in the starting lineup today. Wow. He ended up getting, I don't know why he got pulled yesterday, but early in that game. Oh, there we go. Nat Blake done. Okay, that I didn't have it totally updated. Let me get back to that. Sorry, guys. Yeah, De La Cruz, Candelario, and Steer are the ones that make me a little bit nervous, but the back half that order is just, yeah, not really. Espinal, hey, didn't realize you were with Cincinnati. Congrats. Austin Wynn, kind of the same statement there. Those guys are in the lineup. So at this point, they're just cannon fodder. So it's a good matchup here for Scooble, despite the park. The other thing I wanted to call out there for Texas, or pardon me, for Tampa Bay, is the injuries have really gotten to them this year. So there's been a lack of consistency, but they do have most everybody available at this point. It's just that the consistency is not there outside of Paredes. Brandon Lowe is doing pretty well. Brandon Lau is looking pretty good in the numbers. Josh Lowe, marginal at this point. And then Randy Arozarena lost at the plate this season. Richie Palacios inconsistent. So Evaldi looks solid. Evaldi actually having one of his better strikeout performances, or he's back up to not almost 1 per inning. So that's good to see in his age 34 season. It's looking like a tight core here, Matt.
Yeah, the weird thing about this slate, sorry, just to interrupt you, but I think this is kind of pertinent. There are no like real expensive bats. There are a couple teams like the Guardians who've got Kwan, J. Ram Naylor, the like the Astros, the Braves have a couple kind of expensive bats, but there's no Yankees, there's no Dodgers, there's no Orioles. Forget that they're in cores. The Royals are expensive, like the top of their lineup usually. Witt, Sal Perez, Pasquantino. They're not on this slate. So just a weird dynamic where I think it's a lot easier to pay up for 2 pitchers today than it otherwise normally might be. Washington's the other team that has a few really expensive bats.
Washington. We'll go there actually now, but for the pitcher, is it DJ Hurst? So he has a pair of games with double-digit strikeouts, which is not something I really expected to see. I mentioned yesterday we were doing that marathon deep minor league draft that he was like the 7th or 8th round draft selection on our minor league ones. I was not the one who reached for him. He had 13 strikeouts on June 15th against Miami. He had 10 against the Mets in his last start. His other 4 starts, a 1 strikeout, 5 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts, 3 strikeouts. He's allowed 5 total home runs, ended up allowing 3 the 3 of them came in Coors Field. So, and he is not really a prospect of note for the Nationals. He is one of their better prospects, but not really making any noise across any industry lists. So that one's just a little, I don't really know what to do with him today. I thought about streaming him in season-long leagues, but I couldn't quite get there. Same thing with Kyle Gibson on the other side of that game. Not that I think the Nationals, had one of those days yesterday, did very well against Lance Lynn. Kyle Gibson, very essentially comparable-ish to Lance Lynn, up there in the age brackets, righty, less strikeouts typically than Lynn, less of a power issue than Lynn, but still allows a fair amount of base runners. So I didn't know what to do with those guys. They're kind of SP2s. Jonathan Cannon, yeah, he's one of, I don't even want to say better. He is a prospect for the White Sox. He is not on industry lists. He's getting another start here. He gets that good matchup against Miami. We're starting to consider those guys. Maybe. I don't really want Carlos Carrasco. Sorry. No Hayden Birdsong. We're actually going to be talking about picking against him. And then I get to Hayden Wisniewski and Jose Siriano. But then the numbers tell me I should be taking the offenses in that game and not the pitchers. I've run out of options here, Matt. It's gotten really, really short. So now we're down to Zach Little. Do I really want to go there? Not really. So then I got to circle all the way back to the top. We have some real options here. Sean Manaea against Pittsburgh. And then Ronaldo Lopez against Philadelphia. But Lopez feels, I don't want to say feels like a sham, but everything is going his way this season. Question marks abound here. What else can you tell the people? Because we need to give them at least 2 other options that we wouldn't cry as they go into our lineups.
Well, part of the reason that I'm so high on Evaldi and Skubal is just because I don't like
because of those other
yeah. So that's why Cabrera is in the mix. I'm debating now whether I want to get some Cabrera. I'm playing 4 lineups. I was planning on just playing Skubal and Evaldi, which I don't mind doing. I don't love Evaldi is the problem though. Like he's good and I like him, but I could see Tampa getting to him here. So I'm thinking about going to some Cabrera, but no one else. Zach Littell getting a little bit of love, but I actually like some Texas bats against him. If forced, I'd probably go to Hayden Wisniewski. Again, he's not spectacular, but he's really cheap. Angels aren't good against right-handed pitching. He's fine at 6,500. Especially we don't have a ton of studs where there's a lot of opportunity cost. So I'll say Hayden Wisniewski, and I'm going to say one other guy that I have only played one time all year, and that was his first start of the year when he was 4K. Simeon's Woods Richardson. All of a sudden, you get a Houston lineup with no Tucker and no Alvarez. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's still Houston. They're still good, but two of the top 7 hitters in baseball, both from the left side, not in the lineup. Woods Richardson, 7,200. I wouldn't cry if I played him. Your Cannon call out. I'm all over Miami here. I like picking on Cannon. If I wasn't, I wouldn't hate it. Again, it's still Miami in Miami. I just like their offense a lot today. So I'm off Cannon, but I don't think that he is less reasonable than a Wesneski. I will say, though, just after talking it out, I think the answer for me is Woods Richardson.
All right, let's go take a little peek at him here. Cruise over to Miami, looking at the Houston lineup here.
I mean, he's not great, but like he's not awful either, you know?
Just 23 plate appearances against him last year, 297 this season. Very neutral on the strikeouts, good on the walk rate. Done a decent job of limiting power, especially to lefties, a lot to righties, but that's going to be a small sample size. I don't think it's the worst thing. We look at Altuve. Was he sick or a little banged up? I thought I saw a questionable designation on him at some point this holiday weekend.
Yeah, he missed yesterday, but he's back today, which I would have liked Woods Richardson a lot more, but so be it.
Yeah, so you've got him, you got Alex Bregman. Yonier Diaz is looking like he is going to be a nice find here for the Astros. I mean, of course, they've been batting him cleanup a fair in the 5-hole a lot this season, so you don't need me to tell you that, but they're also batting John Singleton kind of in the middle of the lineup too, just out of desperation at this point. So yeah, we're getting a weaker lineup here. Mauricio Dubon is in. Usually he doesn't start against righties, but the way they've had to, they're missing outfield options there. You got Jake Myers, Chas McCormick. Yeah, this is a weaker lineup. It still has good contact, just not the power that you get when you've got Alvarez in there, when you've got Tucker in there as well. So I think that's a reasonable one to mention. Stephen Leibowitz wants us to know that there is no O in Evaldi. I but it's easier to say Eovaldi, even though it's Evaldi, like Evaldi.
It is Evaldi. What do you mean?
No, if you go look at his baseball reference, and if you actually listened, I've gone back and forth because he's been pitching.
Oh, you mean how you pronounce it?
How you pronounce it?
Okay, because there is an O in it.
Oh, there's the O face. Oh.
I was going to say, there's pretty much an O. It's just not pronounced.
Yes, it's a silent O, right? Is what it is. So, yes, we've got that in the mix there. All right, let's flip it over. Let's start looking at our stacks here. We've determined this is a pretty top-heavy pitching slate. That means we should have plenty of pitchers, pitchers to pick against. Picking 6, pick 6. DraftKings Pick6. Oh, I should talk about them. Speaking of you get a good offer here. Your first slate on any Pick6 slate on DraftKings, your first slate and your first slate only, they will back you up to $200 in losses. So if you bet or create cards with $100, you win 50, they'll give you 50 to make you whole. If you bet 300 and lose it all, they'll give you 200 because that's the cap, but they will give you back 200. The other option is your first $5 you play, you can get $50 back. It's a little convoluted here, but hey, that's what DraftKings is doing as they're launching this new game format across several states. Not all of them. This is definitely a limited rollout at this point in time, but it is a lucrative one. It just went live in Texas. Longtime fan here of Stokastic, Melissa, has been doing quite well with the Pick6s. And then Eric Lindquist, he is kind of the superstar with them. What you're doing is it's a combination of the pick'em cards, except the props are already listed. They do not change. They are static. The wrinkle is once the first game locks, you can still change the rest of your card until those players' games lock. So you're competing against the rest of the field. This is a closed environment. So what it means is you're trying to leverage against the rest of the field. And so if everybody's all over the person that has a 54% chance of winning or achieving whatever it is, and you go the other direction, you can knock out, 2/3 of the field just by being a little bit different. So Lindquist describes this much more eloquently and efficiently. So if you guys catch him any Monday through Friday on MLB Live before lock, he will give you the better diatribe and talking through it. But this is one of those early games that has yet to be solved. People are not playing it correctly or optimally, as we like to bandy about that phrase in our little neck of the world. But it is a good way to gain an edge, and we're looking for those at all times. But that is DraftKings Pick6. All right, your turn, Matt. Pick your top stack.
So a lot of good offenses today, as evident by the fact that there aren't a lot of good pitchers. So I'll start with the Mets. They're number one in the top stack tool. They're expensive, so that's bringing their ownership down, but they look very good against Luis Ortiz. No issue with the Mets. They look very good. St. Louis against DJ Hers. Hers has been very up and down, has some great starts and then some not so good ones. So I could see this St. Louis offense having a good day today. The top of their lineup specifically, Goldschmidt, Contreras, Burleson, Arenado. I like those guys. Mason Wynn up top. Detroit against Graham Ashcraft. They look good here. He doesn't strike anyone out. Detroit isn't great, but they've got some hitters from the left side, as evidenced by the weekend they've had so far in Cincinnati. I know they had a monster night Friday night, followed it up with a decent game yesterday. I could go down the list. I mean, San Fran, the Angels, they're all in play. But for me, my favorite stack on the board is going to be Miami. They're showing up right now as the top value stack on the board, or right behind Detroit as the top value stack on the board. They're a little bit over-owned, 4% chance of being a top stack, 5.5% ownership. But pretty much every team is falling between 4 and 8% owned. So I'm not overly worried about the ownership there. You can roster Evaldi and Skubal with them. Cannon gets destroyed by lefties. So I like this whole lineup, but lefties in particular, Jazz, Jesus Sanchez, Josh Bell, Nick Gordon. I like all those guys, but I also like Jake Berger and Dane Myers, who's really cheap hitting fifth. I like this Miami team a lot today. Probably more than I should, considering they're getting ownership, but this team, I think, has upside when they're facing a pitcher like Cannon, and I'm all for it today.
So my top stack is actually going to be your Cleveland Guardians here. And it is going against Hayden Birdsong. If you guys have not yet looked at Hayden Birdsong's picture, you really need to look at it. It's the perfect example of what Michael called this up on the screen, I hope. It looks like he's seeing his first naked, unclothed boobies for the first time. That's basically what his stock photo looks like. This will be his third start in the majors. He's a 22-year-old. He's a 6th round selection in the 2022 draft. He did pitch 2 seasons at Eastern Illinois, playing for the Panthers there of the Ohio Valley Conference in your neck of the woods. Did great with strikeouts in the minors. That's not been the problem, but he hasn't really gone against the top competition. Control is an issue. An actual out pitch is an issue. He doesn't have the kind of movement one would need to make it twice through a lineup. Here, he is definitely going to be around the majors for the next half dozen years, but most likely as a reliever or a multi-inning reliever / spot starter, just because of the injuries to Blake Snell, Keaton Winn. Let's throw in Alex Cobb. Let's put Robbie Ray in there. The Giants are running out of pitchers. So he's going to be out there today. He has 9 2/3 innings between a game in Atlanta and then at home against the Cubs. He's allowed 3 home runs, 5 walks, did get 10 strikeouts, but that's just, we're scraping for a silver lining at this point. Stephen Kwan, when did he become a power hitter? Because his last 69 opposite-handed matchup or plate appearances, 445 WOBA, but 279 ISO. Your rookie, I say yours because the Cleveland Guardians are yours. Little do people know you actually own them. You just hide here in the DFS world just to not draw attention to yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm doing these shows just to hide the fact that I own the Guardians. You got it. I'm nailed.
So we got rookie Daniel Sherman. He has been doing quite well. 217 isolated power. over his last 30 days against lefties, or pardon me, in lefty-righty matchups. Of course, you got Jose Ramirez, one of the best hitters in the game from both sides of the plate. Josh Naylor is just absolutely crushing it. So this is pretty good. When you're looking at the Guardians here, they are going to be my number one stack. But do you have anything you want to add to the Cleveland side there?
No, I like Cleveland here. I'm pretty sure Birdsong has some reverse splits going on. So not that that really matters here. Cleveland's lefties are amazing. So I like Cleveland here. They're one of those teams that's expensive, though. Kwan, Ramirez, Naylor, all very pricey. They've got some guys to make it work. Martinez, Schneeman, as you mentioned. So I like them as a stack. I have no qualms with them at all.
Let me see. Conscience, just give me a sec here. I'll drop that link into chat for you. They're not the primary sponsor of this show. That would be Pick6. What else who do you like as kind of your filler stack here? Is it, because to me it feels like, well, one, I've just run some stuff again. I'm getting a lot of the top portion of the Miami lineup. You've already identified that, but I'm still getting a bunch of Chicago and the Angels, which was not something I expected. What do you see from those teams that that you think is drawing them into the optimizer here?
What team was that? Sorry, I missed that.
The Windy City game. Chicago.
Oh yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one for me. Like I could see both sides, like all four sides in play. Wesneski, Soriano, the Cubs, and the Angels all in play here. Top Stack Tool likes the hitting more, but Wesneski's still pretty high in the top pitcher tool. I don't have that strong a takes anywhere here. I'm not playing much from this game, but I think Wesneski looks like one of the best cheap arms, and I would have no problem going to some Cubs bats and or some Angels bats against Wesneski because he's only in play because of his price tag.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Now I'm going the other direction, right? I know better. Maybe I should just erase everything and just let the tools do their work, because that is probably the safer way to do this, since they are simulating these things tens of thousands of times, and I am just guessing, I guess is what we want to say here, speculating, pontificating as to what we are going to look at here. Do you think there's any team on this 9-gamer being overlooked?
Yeah, one team I'll say that I think is going a little bit overlooked is the White Sox.
Okay.
Cabrera has uber amount of talent. His arm is electric, but he gets in his own way a lot. I mean, his past two starts before he got hurt, he was chalky in that Colorado start where he started out amazing. He had 9 Ks in 4 innings. I think he had in 3 innings like 8 Ks, but he couldn't get out of his own way. Put guys on, ended up giving up a 3-run homer to Jacob Stallings. I don't know how I remember that, but I do. And kind of ruined his day. Then he followed that up with a disastrous performance against the Dodgers. So I think there's inherent upside with the White Sox. Again, it's low probability, but Cabrera is going to be owned, and he's far from a sure thing. Plus, you get the Miami bullpen after Cabrera if they just can extend him a long time. Sorry about the baby in the background.
Not an issue. Not an issue. So we've got, I see Sean saying, I'm scrolling back in chat, Sean B saying, John Singleton, he's hitting pretty well, EMac. No, he's really not. Okay, technically, he's getting singles, so that is hitting. And he probably has hits as in a single in 12 of his last 16 games. But if we look at his last 88 plate appearances, he has 1 double and 2 home runs. That's not going to get it done for DFS. That's not how this works. His slugging percentage is 0.005 higher than his on-base percentage. He's living up to his name. Oh, perfect. This is walking right into this one. He's living up to his name. Singleton. See what I did there. Who do you have for home run calls? And we'll take a turn over here to the later slate.
Home run calls. I'm gonna go with Matt Chapman.
Oh, okay. That's what we call in the business off the board. But you know what? I'm not going to pick one of the Cleveland guys because I think that I'm very enthralled by them. I am going over to say hello there, Texas Bats. It is going to be John Smith. John Smith is our home run.
Josh Smith.
Josh Smith.
Damn. And you can't even get his name right, but you're picking him for a home run.
I'm
kidding.
I wanted to go John Singleton for the home run just because this one's going back right in my face. So
I like the top of the Texas lineup today. Semien, I like a lot. Littell has struggled against righties. Semien homered yesterday. He's been streaky his entire career. I think he might have found something. So I like Semien a lot here. I almost call him for my home run. He might be my favorite hitter on the slate, though. Falling price tag, second base is weak. I like Marcus Semien a ton today.
All right. The other guy on the short list was Michael Busch. So batting second in Chicago.
Respect that.
Looks like my how much time do we have left? Oh, we got 30 minutes. It looks like my cash game lineup is going to be Evaldi, Skubal, Michael Busch, Christopher Morel, Jazz Chisholm, Jesus Sanchez, and then I may or may not keep them, but it's got Adele, Swanson, Morel, and Logan O'Hoppe from and Drury from that Chicago game, which just no matter what I seem to do, I'm getting 4 to 5 batters from that game. Jake Berger is in my 4th and 6th most optimal lineups here. He has dual eligibility at first base and at third base. So that's giving him a little extra help. And then round lineup 10, I start getting Francisco Lindor as coming in as kind of that, hey, you're going to spend your money on a bat. Pick this guy pick. So we'll see how that shakes out. Just surprising. I had to go check the settings. I'm like, did I leave this set for double stacks? Because no, I didn't. I'm just getting them naturally. So perhaps I should accept that. But if you start looking at their game logs, Adele, yeah, he hasn't gotten sent back to the Sacramento or the Salt Lake City Bees, but he is batting 8th now. It is what it is. Brandon Drury, remember he was hurt and then he had some sort of illness that kept him out for about 2 weeks. He's back, but his game log just looks dreadful. Taylor Ward is solid. He and Dansby Swanson are potential opportunities, similar price points there, depending if I go with, I think I like going with both Chisholm and Sanchez. So that's going to knock out Taylor Ward, but Taylor Ward is on the short list. Austin Riley also on the short list. So those are kind of the core plays I'm looking at playing the DraftKings. I think I'm in the 10-5 and the $2 single entry
and
ups.
I just wanted to shout out, like before we moved on to the afternoon slate, I'm playing a little bit Edward Cabrera. It's a lot of because what the tools are saying, like I trust the tools and I don't use them as gospel or anything like that. But, I think it says something that he's the top overall pitcher. But even more than that, for me, I don't love Evaldi here, and I don't even love Skubal at that price. I like them a lot, and I think they're the top 2 guys. But this isn't like a Chris Sale versus, Pittsburgh, and like Skubal's really expensive, and Evaldi has been a little bit more hit or miss than I would like so far this year. So Skubal has now moved ahead of Cabrera in the top pitcher tool. I'm playing, as of right now, 75% Skubal and Evaldi and 50% Cabrera. So in 4 lineups, that's how it works out. I'm okay with that.
All right. I see Tony A says Swanson in a huge slump. Sir Charles Moran says Swanson in a career-long slump. He was all over the top of my waivers today in season long. And I was just sitting there looking at Dan. I'm like, oh, Dansby Swanson, I should grab him. I'm looking at his stuff. I'm like, no, I really shouldn't. So, and then I said to myself, I'm old enough to remember when Dansby Swanson was good, when he had about a season and a half of glory there with Atlanta. That's a good one, Tony A. Swanson is the new Jason Hayward. Okay, Bosper. Man, everybody just piling on Swanson today. I wouldn't change my home run pick. It's going to be Dansby Swanson. couple of key things as we talk about some fun here. I just dropped the link to Spotlight Pitchers and Top Stacks tool, or pardon me, article into the chat, where I go over one of the top pitchers and one of the top stacks as listed out by our tools for each of the slates. So that is a helpful thing, gives you a little bit of a difference. I tend to stay away from Coors Field and the obvious spots. You guys don't need me to write that stuff up for you. But I also do a free wager utilizing OddsShopper. So OddsShopper is very, very powerful tool. It is the best way to do market-based wagering. So key thing about that is, what that means is we're pitting all of the books against each other, and whichever of the books is behind, lagging, or mispriced stands out dramatically. We've also got the math baked in to tell you what you don't want to take the number or take below. So like if it's the bet today that I wrote up was let's get over to it because this was a great example, was Jose Berrios going against the Mariners. So the under on his 5.5 strikeouts today was available at -104, -104. So almost a pick 'em, a little bit of juice on it on FanDuel. Stokastic says that's a -110 bet. So you don't want to take that at -111 or lower. It's bad for you. It's like -120, -132 on Pinnacle. That's a -8% ROI. So this is something like someone like me looking at this. I have bet or I have Hard Rock. It's -115 here. That's a bad bet for me, even though I like this bet. I like it on FanDuel with -104. That -115 is a losing wager for me. It's a -1% ROI. So you got to look at what the true odds are, and then you also need context, right? So even though the Mariners strike out the second most or the most, I think they're still just slightly ahead of the Athletics. No Julio Rodriguez today. Their only player in the lineup that is below or is better than league average against righties when it comes to strikeouts is Josh Rojas. Everybody else is worse than league average. Their entire projected lineup is worse than league average. So why pick on Berrios? He's averaging 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's 2 below last year, 2 below his career number. His last 6 starts, he had 1. That's right. His last start, 1 strikeout, 8, 3, 1, 4, and 2 in the other games. He has been above 6, I think, if I remember correctly, 4 times this season. You just have to look at these contexts and understand it. But that's the beauty of OddsShopper. It pops up these bets. I just do a little legwork because I want to explain them to you guys. You don't necessarily have to do the legwork. It's more fun when you say, hey, now I understand all the different things going into it, because we have the win probability, right? The win probability is looking at all the things I'm just spelling out here. But sometimes you gain a little bit of comfort when you're like, wait, how many times has he had 6 or more strikeouts this season? Oh shit, 4 times and 1 with more than 6. Yeah, I'll take the under on that one. But that's OddsShopper. You guys can get that for $14.95 per week, $49.95 per month. You get access to about a dozen different Discord channels. You got Ben Rossa, been trailing him on some soccer bets. We've got the Copa Cup and the Euros going on right now. A lot of the sports wagering books are giving bonus bets off on those. We've got Lindquist and Greg dropping wagers all the time. Aton can't take a breath without handing out a parlay. And then you got Isaiah in there cranking out all of the props. He lives and breathes with the OddsShopper tools. So he is constantly putting out the different wagers that are there. But you guys definitely want to check this out. And these wagers change all the time, because as soon as a number gets out of line, it draws money. The books adjust, something else is out of line. So that's OddsShopper. Afternoon slate. We've got 4 games here, Matt. This should be a fun one. We are going to be looking at Baltimore as probably for our top pitcher, I would say, is going to be Grayson Rodriguez. In this one, he has been pretty stellar, and hopefully the A's used up most of their runs yesterday when they had 19. Cade Povich was the hard luck loser, and then Cole Irving, typically a starter, he came in for 4 innings, gave up 5 runs. And then did you see James McCann got to pitch for the second time of his career, allowed a home run to fellow catcher, no relation, Kyle McCann in the final inning there. So yeah, a lot of fun in that. But back to Rodriguez, this will be his 39th career start. He has, we made, I think, about 12 or 15 starts last year. He has improved across the board, 3.45 ERA, 1.22 whip, 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. The only thing I wanted to note is that over his last 6 outings, he's slipped below a strikeout per inning. I think that's just small sample size noise, but otherwise I think he is the clear top pitcher. Do you have any worries with Rodriguez, and who else do you like?
Not really. I think he looks good here. I think the pitching options are pretty straightforward on the afternoon slate. Cease looks the best because he's the best DFS pitcher. I like the matchup for Rodriguez more, but Cease I just think has more upside regardless of matchup. So I think those are your 2 clear top options. And then Kirby and Barrios. I'm with you on Barrios here. I think you could make the case for Kirby or Barrios being, whichever one you like better. I don't have any strong feelings there. Kirby's higher in the top pitcher tool, also getting more ownership. Barrios isn't as good as Kirby, but better matchup, and he's cheaper. So I get both of them. I could see playing both of them and not spending all the way up because there are some expensive bats on this slate. Namely the Dodgers against Dallas Keuchel. And then I also really like the Orioles against Spence, the Padres against Nelson. And I don't mind the Brewers against this Robleski. So really good offenses on this slate to pair with really good pitching options. The problem is the pitchers are expensive and the hitting's expensive. So gonna have to get weird somewhere.
So let's not get weird and let's talk about the Dodgers, because I had some fun digging into Dallas Keuchel here. So I agree. I called out the exact same things. It's like go against Mitch Spence, go against Ryan Nelson, but especially go against Dallas Keuchel. So he did win the American League Cy Young Award. That was back in 2015 when he was with the Astros. He actually won 20 games that year, led the league with 232 innings, and with a 1.017 whip. He has 5 Gold Gloves as well as a pair of All-Star Game appearances, but that's it. In 2020, he was chef's kiss amazing. 11 starts, 1.99 ERA. That's just more confirmation that that was truly the year the simulation took over. Because remember everything weird that happened in 2020 with the pandemic and all that other stuff? Dallas Keuchel with a sub-2 ERA. Yeah, that was part of the whole simulation thing there. But in the 3+ seasons since, he has made 57 total appearances while playing for the White Sox, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Twins, and now the Brewers. 269 not so nice innings. He has a 6.31 ERA, a 5.33 xERA, and a 5.24 FIP. He still has a 50% ground ball rate, but he is striking out less than 6 per 9. He is walking almost 4 per 9, and basically he is throwing batting practice. Hat tip to him for making $38 million in this time frame, mostly courtesy of the White Sox, who were paying out the final 2 gigantic years of his contract. But we're going against him. But I thought that was fun to see how many teams he played for. And that 2020, holy shit, he was good.
Very good. Not so much the case anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's one of these guys, though, that is not good. But when you stack against him, I don't know. It clearly didn't work out the last time. I think he was facing the Rockies. So much different spot here against the Dodgers. Dodgers look great, sort of the Orioles and Padres. Yeah, really, really good offenses on this slate. If the Dodgers, Orioles, or Padres were on the main slate, they'd look like one of the best offenses, if not the best.
All right. And just to clear it up, yeah, I'm totally fine playing Jose Barrios in DFS. Absolutely going against the Mariners. I think we just got their line. Let's take a peek at that.
Yeah, lineup stinks. No Julio. Yeah. I mean,
mine is under 6 strikeouts. That I'm willing to bet. This is just a marginal lineup with no Julio.
I thought you were making the case, all that long spiel on Barrios to play him in DFS. The whole time it was about his strikeout under.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that too. I mean, Barrios isn't that good, but for DFS purposes, like I think he's in play because of his price tag. And, if he ends up with 6 strikeouts here, I think you're fine. And, the fact that his line is at 6.5 tells you a lot here.
Yeah, 5.5, but yes, it's
5.5. Sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those where you can do this both ways, right? It's again, as I mentioned, he's gotten 6 or more 4 times, and 3 of those were 6. So it's gonna be close, even against the Mariners, no matter how the math works out here. That's just the way he is pitching this season. Mike, can we quickly do the lineup generator here, since we have a couple minutes? So just want to remind everybody 2 things. 1, free best ball. What did I just say? Free. That's right. Free best ball on the Stokastic homepage. If you see in the upper right, there's a little symbol or a little drop down that says best ball and in parentheses free. If you have a Stokastic account, you have access to that. Don't have to have a subscription, just have to have a Stokastic account. That's it. Get all of Matt Gajewski's best ball tools for free. Let's talk lineup generator real quick here. So lineup generator goes for the main slates of both DraftKings and FanDuel. We can set up our stacks. DraftKings, you can go 5-3, 4-4, and 5-0. FanDuel, you can go 4-4, 4-3, and 4-2-2. I can't see the screen very well, Mike, so we'll just do whichever site you would like. But it's for each of the main slates. You can pick your stack type here. You can go contrarian, balanced, chalky. Go ahead and pick whatever you would like on that one, Mike. And then we can start building lineups. You have the choice of locking in 1 pitcher and 1 hitter to further narrow down what your influences, or to create your influences a little more heavily here on the player pool. You build out up to 20 lineups here, put them in the holding pen. If you like a lineup, save it. If you don't like it, discard it. Once you get to that holding pen, you can look at onto the right. You can see the player portfolio. That is the percentage of your players. If you want to click on one of those players, it brings their lineups to the top on the left side and highlights them. You can then look at what is the individual makeup of those lineups. And if this is the perfect lineup, I just didn't want this player in there, you can go in and click and select a different player that fits within the salary cap constraints. It's a lot of fun for baseball. It does a pretty good job of building out cash game lineups, both for baseball and for basketball. Very quickly, this is using all of the tools that Stokastic uses for the simulator. So these are results have been simulated tens of thousands of times. This has the leverage information in it, top stacks, top pitchers, top hitters tools, player projections, all that fun stuff. Figures out the ROI and just gives you positive ROI lineups here. Once you have what you like for your 20 lineups, you can download them, upload them to your DFS site of choice, build another 20. So it's a pretty good deal here. To get lineups very quickly that are going to have a fighting chance of cashing. And that's all we really want, because then we need luck. Lady Luck needs to be on our side in a lot of these cases. The other thing that I really like using it for is NFL. We'll get into that, but we do have it for the primetime showdown slates, as well as the main slates for DraftKings and FanDuel. But we'll talk more about that when football season is around. Do you have any late slate home run calls here?
Yeah, let's go with Christian Yelich. Homer late yesterday, and he's going to follow it up with a homer today.
Yes, he did. I will say Jake Cronenworth. Jake Cronenworth. Yeah, that Yelich home run saved me. It happened right around the same time as Ohtani got like hit by a pitch and stole a base or something. I did again.
And then he homered.
Yeah, then he homered. Saved my ass because I had a really good night on Yahoo, marginal on DraftKings, and then hat tip to Ben Rasa and Eric Lindquist for giving me some winning bets there to follow over there on Hard Rock. So I had a pretty good night all the way around. But we're going to slide on out of here. You guys still have about 9 minutes before lock here, so make sure you get your lineups in. I want to say thank you to producer Mike. You guys can follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipsMatt. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Stokastic _COM. And with that, gamers, good luck.